Woo! Michael Blue here.
All right. So this is week 2 of Michael Blue on everything EOS. Last week we took it for a test spin. Everyone seemed to like it. We're almost up to 2,000 views, almost 50% retention time, which for those non-YouTube video makers out there, that's really good. That means the average person watching these shows watched 50% of the time. So we're here again to speculate around some June news. I have not had the time to dig around as much lately, but luckily for us and the Everything EOS audience and Michael Blue audience, Michael has been doing some digging, and it's quite interesting what he uncovered.
Hey, well, first off, I have to thank you, Zack, for making me look smarter than I am, man.
It's all in the editing process, man. People don't see the real thing. I loved the ending. I think the ending of that video last week was the absolute best thing, and it was a big hit among everyone who watched it.
Well, hopefully we can just get more and more fun. But yeah, we got some exciting things. So I put together this presentation, and big speculation, big rabbit holes. Nothing is really definitive other than the big players that we'll be talking about. It's great news for the entire crypto space. Of course, EOS is the horse we ride, and so we look at it with more scrutiny. And you know what's going on with June 1st, Block.One announcements, and Dan Larimer with the emoji of mind blown, Brock Pierce saying mind blown. So something big is happening. So it's made me take a deep dive into what could be possibly going on there. But I'm going to show you a presentation first of what Apple is releasing as their Apple Card, which is coming this summer. June 1st is summer, right? June 1st is summer. Okay, so coincidentally, it's coming this summer. Apple Card. It looks like a game changer for what their credit cards in general and loans and all that good stuff. But once I show you that presentation quickly, I'm going to do this keynote presentation, and then you just interject wherever you feel to interject, and then we'll just take it from there and have a little bit of fun. Sounds good?
Excited. I am excited. Yes,
All
let's
right.
go. So right now, this is happening with Apple, regardless of what's going on with Block.One or EOS. This is happening, and there's no question about that. Our job is you've uncovered some stuff to try to tie this into potential June EOS. June EOS news.
I mean, regardless if Apple Card is using crypto or blockchain, I'm going to get this card because it's just cool. I mean, if they're really thinking outside the box, I think this is huge. I don't see a lot of people in the crypto Twitter talking about it, but I think this is a really big thing coming for Apple and the world. But it's hard for me not to believe that they're not going to use some sort of stable coin or a coin of their own, or use DLT or blockchain. But my speculation is they're going to be using EOSIO. And there's some sort of partnership to be announced in June. Again, speculation, but let's go through this really quick. This is
real quick. I keep hearing you're, I believe, involved with the Warbly project somehow. I'm going to call you out right here. We didn't go over this. What's up with this NDA I keep hearing about? Or I know you probably can't say anything. You're able to blink twice, nod your head. Do you know anything about this?
Well, I can say this. In my opinion, big things are coming to Warbly. And only in hindsight will the EOS community understand why it's a needed component for the whole ecosystem. So with that being said, let's talk about this exciting Apple Card.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a new kind of credit card created by Apple, not a bank. There's a film. You can go on to the apple.com website and watch this for yourself. But Apple Card completely rethinks everything about the credit card. It represents all the things Apple stands for, like simplicity, transparency, and privacy. It builds on the incredible ease and security that millions of people love about Apple Pay. And it's the first card that actually encourages you to pay less interest. You can buy things effortlessly with just your iPhone, or use the Apple-designed titanium card anywhere in the world. Doesn't that look sexy?
It looks like a nice card. So I noticed on the one up above it had a MasterCard logo. This one does not. So I don't know if they need a MasterCard or Visa partnership if it's one of the cash registers that basically you just put your iPhone close to the credit card swiper. So I'm thinking maybe this credit card has that feature in it, the NFC, I believe.
Right. Yeah. And that I do not know yet, but it's entirely possible. They do have the technology now in Apple. So moving on, the power of iPhone and a credit card. Apple Card lives on your iPhone in the Wallet app. That makes all kinds of new things possible. You can sign up in no time and start using it right away with Apple Pay. For every purchase you make, you get daily cash. And this really is cash. So you can spend it however you want, right from your iPhone. Have a question, just text. It's that simple. So they're using a really cool artificial intelligence going on here with this whole DApp. It's quite inventive, but the thing that you do is you get daily cash rewards every time you spend using your Apple Pay. So that really tells me that they're on the crypto paradigm thinking process. Not saying that they're using blockchain or crypto, but at least the mentality is in there.
Instantaneous micropayments. So with a usual credit card, let's say you get 3% cash back on gasoline purchases. You don't actually see that credited until your statement the following month. Whereas this, it sounds like it's instantaneous, it's daily at least. So you're getting your purchase rewards every day, and they're in small payments, which are usually cost prohibitive because of just transaction fees, typically through a credit card processor. It's usually about 2.9%.
Exactly. So, if they are using blockchain, then I would think that they would need to use something with free transactions to keep the overhead low for not only them, but the users.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, you'll know so much more about your spending at a glance. So, a lot of, wallet apps now have similar features, so you can see basically what you're spending your money on daily. So those same colors show up in your spend summary. See lots of orange, that's food and drinks. Pink, that's entertainment, looks like fun weekend. Daily cash, no points, no gimmicks. So you're seeing there the NFC reader.
That's interesting. Is that their hardware right there? Do you know?
I do not know that.
Because most POS systems have this built in for the frequency here, but it's weird that it's almost like the big chain stores are blocking it out. If you go to Target or Walmart, you can't use Apple Pay, but if you go to like smaller stores like gas stations, they do take it. It's really weird.
Right.
But it looks, if they have this device, that means that like if a small store didn't have an upgraded POS system, that this would probably be a low price. I don't know what the price point on that would be, but that's pretty cool just to know that they even have something like that. I've never seen that.
Right. Well, and not only that, so if they go to a store or a vendor that doesn't, do this, then they just pull out the sexy card and use that. Mm-hmm. So when you buy something using Apple Card, you get a percentage of the purchase back in daily cash. Not a month from now, but every day. There's no limit to how much you can get. And it goes right into your Apple Cash card so you can use it like cash. Order some sneakers or send it to your bank account or put it towards your Apple Card bill or pay a friend back for brunch right in the messages. Only iPhone gives you that flexibility. So can you imagine how viral, how mass adopted EOS would become if this truly is integrated with EOSIO to be able to,
any cryptocurrency. I don't even care if this is Bitcoin, to be honest, or Lightning Network. I'd be just as happy. And I just want to kind of make that clear. Of this speculation, it could be EOSIO. We hope it's EOSIO, but in the broader picture, we just hope it's crypto and blockchain in general. So I just kind of want to put that out there too.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind too. So
that's exciting. 37-cent transaction for that cash back. That's below the cost of using like a Visa. If I wanted to send you 37 cents from me to you, Mike, it would cost more than 37 cents to do that. That's why you'll see all stores will have like a $5 or $10 minimum purchase on their credit card purchases, is because it's so cost prohibitive to do that. So
Exactly.
I think we're on the right track here.
And that's why I think this has, blockchain written all over it. Just the fact that they can do this, daily. No fees, not even the hidden ones. We want to make it easier to pay down your balance, not harder. So Apple Card doesn't have any fees, no annual cash advance over the limit, or late fees, no fees, really. And their goal with Apple Card is to provide interest rates that are among the lowest in the industry. So who wouldn't want this card? I mean,
regardless of if there's a blockchain tie-in, like, I want this. I have an iPhone already. Like, I like using Apple Pay, but this is like Apple Pay, I guess, with some credit limits on it and stuff. And
right.
It says it's low interest.
But doesn't this just speak volumes of the crypto paradigm we're in right now? I mean, this is where blockchain's headed anyways. And it really sounds like they're just, first movers in the big, $100 trillion companies. The first credit card that actually encourages you to pay less interest. This is really interesting. Most credit card statements emphasize your minimum amount due, and if you pay just that, it costs you a lot of interest over time. Apple Card is different. When you're ready to make a payment, Apple Card estimates the interest you'll wind up paying based on any payment amount you choose. And it does it in real time, so you can make an informed decision about how much of your balance to pay down. Take a look at that.
I mean, if nothing else, this is some slick UI. I like it. I like everything Apple does from a XUI standpoint.
Yeah. A new level of privacy and security. The heck could that be about? Apple Card is designed to make sure you're the only one who can use it. All the advanced security technology of Apple Pay, Face ID, Touch ID, unique transaction codes, are built right in. And the physical card has no numbers, not on the front, not on the back, which gives you a whole new level of security.
I mean, so with Apple Pay in general, as it is, I think it uses some of these features. I mean, Apple is the makers of the secure enclave. So like, if I want to use just regular Apple Pay without this credit card, I basically tap my phone on the POS system, and then it asks me to scan my face right after. So it is more secure. But I want to speculate here, but I also want to kind of be honest with my expectations too. But I'm excited of this as a product still so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. And didn't Dan mention something about the secure enclave of Apple and doing something in relation to that?
So the one thing I can say is that every current wallet, so that's Token Pocket, Scatter's coming out with their mobile, EOS Links, none of them are using secure enclave yet. And basically Block.One seems to have the goods on that. And it seems like it's a really tough nut to crack. Like, there's a reason that Nathan James at Scatter hasn't been able to do this yet. And I don't know if you need some sort of special partnership with Apple to do it. That's all just speculation, but I do know that there's a lot of limitations around wallets in Apple because of how secure just the iPhone is. And then the other piece of speculation is, about a month ago in the EOS main channel, someone asked Dan for a hint on what's coming in June, and his response was like a sticker, like an emoji sticker of Steve Jobs like holding up an iPhone. And most people just took that as the Apple Wallet, the iPhone Secure Enclave wallet, which I'd be happy with that, but you're kind of hoping it's much more than that. And the other thing we know is that Block.One and Dan, they're planning to open source the Secure Enclave code. Maybe this week, maybe next week. It'll probably come out before June. So that means that their big announcement is not the Secure Enclave, but yet Dan still teased a sticker of Steve Jobs holding up an iPhone. So
right, and also the mind blown emoji he's put out there several times. So in knowing how much they're teasing, which is unlike them, their behavior over the last month or so is they're very excited about something. And so for them to be this excited and teasing and just can't they're just dying to tell everybody, but they just, can't, for the time being. So it's got to be something big. So anyways, but as I go on, I'll tie more things in here to talk about. And then moving on here, if you find a place that doesn't take Apple Pay, again, we talked about that, you can use the card. And then moving down, to create a different kind of card, we worked with a different kind of partner, Goldman Sachs. So this is another rabbit hole we're going to dive down here in just a few minutes. And we're going to talk about all of EOSIO connections with Goldman Sachs. It's really interesting. So Goldman Sachs, they're deep into crypto. It doesn't get talked about a lot recently, about Circle, Poloniex, USDC, but we'll dive into that in a second. Do you know EOS San Diego, Kent?
Yeah, I've met him both times I was in San Francisco. Good guy, good channel. Take
it for what it worth. This is pure speculation, but the fact that he's making a video about this and putting it out there, there's something to it. But let me just play this because it'll tie into the presentation later on.
So on our Telegram, we had somebody come on our Telegram who told us that what's going on with EOS right now is that they're making an agreement with Apple Computer, the iPhone. So there's going to be an announcement in June between Apple and EOS.
That's big speculation from an unknown source, but this will tie in later as well. But what are your thoughts after hearing that?
So it's hard for me to know how reliable it is, and D may have also just been talking about the secure enclave. So I don't know if that's really considered a partnership necessarily to be putting to turn an iPhone basically into a hardware wallet, which that's exciting alone. But if there are rumors that there's more to this and it is a real partnership, that's bigger than huge. Like I hope that's the case. But I just want to quell my own expectations because I'm a bit of a dreamer. I'm a bit of a dreamer mostly. I think everything's going to happen. So
we got two. Hey folks, we got two dreamers on the line here. Okay. Well, let me continue because I think this will get a little bit more exciting here.
Where'd this graphic come from?
Oh, I made
it says pure shade. Okay,
that's me.
I was like, holy shit. I was like, holy shnikes.
That's the dream in Michael Blue.
So I think that even without EOSIO, if this is just a wallet that has EOS as one of the integrated cryptocurrencies in it, that's just as big.
Oh yeah.
This really reminds me of the debit card that Coinbase put out recently that's not available in the United States. Are you familiar with that release?
Yeah. And there is a connection between Coinbase and Circle. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, no, I'm aware of that. So they could all be they could all be, holding hands somehow here too.
Or just competitors doing the same thing. So with the Coinbase debit card, what it, and I don't have it because I'm in the US, but what it seems to allow you to do is, so Coinbase has all of these different cryptocurrencies that are tradable on Coinbase and Coinbase Pro. You're able to designate like a priority level of which coins you want to sell in what order. So you're at the cash register at a store and you swipe your Coinbase debit card, and you're obviously paying in US dollars or euros or whatever your national currency is. But on the back end, what Coinbase is doing is it's making that swap. So if I buy a $10 item, it sells $10 worth of Bitcoin in the back end, and then it just does the swap on its own. So that sounds to me like that would make a lot of sense with this. So even if it's not a block, like it's not an EOSIO blockchain necessarily, it's a wallet that could possibly handle multiple different types of cryptocurrencies in the same way that the Samsung Galaxy is today.
Exactly.
I'm excited because I have an iPhone. I don't have a Galaxy.
And you'll notice the bottom of that screen, it says pure shameless speculation.
Bloomberg has reported that you're winning funding from Peter Thiel, Jihan Wu. Can you confirm that? Yes, we can confirm that. We did a strategic round a little bit a couple months ago, and this technology is really a platform that allows us to disrupt some of the large centralized technology platforms today, and these are leaders in that space. And our next plans will make it in terms of what we build on the application ourselves. It'll become a little more apparent why we chose the investors that we have.
Now, I wanted to dive into Peter Thiel just to remind everybody and those that haven't really dove into Peter Thiel and what a big player he is in the investing world, but not only investing, but also in Washington. So this is worth reading. By now, the ascension of Peter Thiel, 50, is Silicon Valley lore. Born in Frankfurt, Germany, he immigrated to the U.S. as a child, attended college at law school at Stanford, and worked at the white shoe law firm Sullivan and Cromwell, and at a unit at Credit Suisse as a derivatives trader. In 1998, he co-founded the company, which would become PayPal, with some fellow overachievers, among them Elon Musk, the electric car innovator. In time, Thiel and other PayPal alumni, including LinkedIn's Red Hoffman and Yelp's Russell Simmons, became known as the PayPal Mafia. In 2004, Thiel had entered the ranks of history's shrewdest investors when he wagered relatively modest sum of $500,000 on a 10.2% stake in Facebook. Though he was since sold many of those shares for more than $1 billion, he remains on Facebook's board. With some of his PayPal pals, he launched Founders Fund, a venture capital operation that recently invests in a host of big-name startups, including Airbnb, Lyft, SpaceX, and Spotify. Thiel's net worth over time would grow to $2.7 billion. His portfolio has also included Thrive Capital, Oscar Health, two firms started by Joshua Kushner, Jared's younger brother, and Cadre, a real estate tech company. So I just wanted to read that just to remind people and those that don't know, but this Peter Thiel holds a lot of weight. And we'll get into that in just a second.
I forgot he was connected to Elon, actually. I knew about the PayPal Mafia, but and I knew Elon was part of PayPal, I guess, but it's been a while since I saw this in front of me. So I appreciate that reminder.
Yeah.
Because,
well,
yeah, I mean, everyone wants to be part of Elon. If Elon has anything to do with EOSIO, which I have no evidence of that just gets me excited just because it's Elon.
Right. And here's Trump. Love him or hate him, he's the president of the United States, and look at that sincere respect you can see from that photo. I mean, he respects Peter Thiel. And getting into this, is Trump mulling Peter Thiel for a top intelligence advisory post? And you got into this in one of your last episodes, which made me kind of go down this rabbit hole further with not Elon Musk, but Peter Thiel. So venture capitalist Peter Thiel has been quietly advising the Trump administration for months. Now, sources say he could be in line for top intelligence oversight role. Steve Bannon, which name we've heard recently, White House officials, friends, and foes gauged the billionaire's motivations and his Washington mojo. Okay, so Peter Thiel, the elusive tech billionaire and Block.One investor, who far from public view has wielded outsized clout within the new administration. I cannot overstate his impact on this transition, Bannon began, describing Thiel as a hidden hand in shaping Team Trump. You'll see in the near term that Peter will be taking on new responsibilities like intelligence. While Trump and his communication squad may rail about Washington's permanent bureaucracy, especially those in national security positions, Bannon talked about having been in the trenches alongside Thiel as part of an offensive against the so-called deep state, a term used in certain quarters recently in the far right to describe what they see as a force within the government, including the intelligence agencies, that consistently assert its power in order to maintain the status quo. Indeed, as Bannon and others avowed, Thiel, a man most Americans could not pick out of a lineup, was apparently poised to assume some serious and seriously controversial responsibilities. Now, this is interesting because Peter Thiel, the elusive tech billionaire, so technology fascinates this guy. Okay, he's got a lot of clout in Washington. So
he led
right.
the investment round last July into Block.One for an undisclosed equity percentage, and the guy whose quote you read, Steve Bannon, as far as we know, he has no ties to Block.One or EOSIO, but his ties are with Brendan Bloomer and Brock Pierce.
And Goldman Sachs.
And he's a former Goldman Sachs guy.
Which Apple Card is basically powered by Goldman Sachs. So we're going to go through a lot of different Goldman Sachs connections to the EOSIO. So, but knowing that Peter Thiel, who's a tech enthusiast, billionaire, is also friends with Steve Bannon, or at least, maybe not even friends, but they're acquaintances in Washington. He's speaking of Peter Thiel with great respect. So wouldn't Peter Thiel be educating people about blockchain technology and being an investor in Block.One, EOSIO? Seems would come up in conversation from time to time, especially when talking about cryptocurrency. What are your thoughts on that?
It makes a lot of sense to me. That's all I can say is the connections are there. I guess the biggest question is that Peter Thiel is involved with so many different projects. It's hard to know if his incentives are with building up Block.One or one of his other hundreds of companies he's potentially, or dozens at least of companies he's advising on. But the fact that you read a quote from Steve Bannon talking about him, it sounds like the two of them are potentially close. And to kind of add on to all of this intelligence information, how he's going to have a bigger part in the intelligence community. I don't know if this is further in your presentation, but are you going to get into Palantir at all?
No, I didn't. I haven't dove into that yet, but yeah.
So Peter Thiel, he's had this company called Palantir. It's like a data analytics company. And they work with on government contracts in private enterprise. But very recently, about a month or two ago, they got over an $800 million contract to do a contract for the U.S. Army. Wow. I gotta see what this is called here.
$800 million.
$800 million, and it's a distributed. Damn. It has to, like, just the fact that it has the word distributed in it. Hold on, let me pull this up. We'll have to cut this out while I read. This is like really big paywall. Damn. Okay, so the contract is with the Pentagon, which is obviously the intelligence piece of the U.S. government. The contract was for over $800 million, and it was for a defense. Okay, so it was for an intelligence system to aid soldiers in remote environments called an Army Distributed Common Ground System. So basically, it's a way to send battlefield intelligence back and forth between like the intelligence, like data centers, and the actual battlefield itself. And I don't have it all in front of me, so this is just me kind of winging it. But I read part of the problems with so Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, they're actually the second company to pick up the contract for this project. And where the first project failed was that it didn't have like these open source components. So there's a lot of like libraries for like data mining that's like written in Python, like these open source code libraries, but they weren't interoperable with this like closed loop government intelligence system. So like the recommendations were basically like, we need a system that the data is secure, but people outside of the intelligence community could write programs for it to mine the data and manipulate and do what they need to do with the data without actually having access to the data themselves. So I don't know if this is tied in. This is probably completely separate, but if you Google the terms Palantir and the word blockchain, you'll see some older articles where there was a blockchain identity component to it. And we know like secure data transfers, part of what we haven't really seen yet in blockchain, but we know that with MEOS, which is the social media platform we keep hearing about from Block.One, there will be a component where some of the data can be private and some of it can be public. because that's one of the problems. I guess it's a problem and a feature at the same time with blockchain, is that everything's transparent. But sometimes you don't want everything to be transparent, like if it's your social security number or your like personal address.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm just putting some pieces together, but it all points to Peter Thiel is where this is heading. And I can't wait to see your next couple of slides, because I want to hear the Goldman Sachs pieces, because this is all brand new to me. So this is all going to be my natural reaction.
Yeah, just to talk about, you're just discussing, a couple of things came up in my mind. One was the image of Brendan Bloomer on stage on that the video where they're sitting down. I don't know where they're at, if they're in Washington, D.C., that the gentleman, the host, is saying, Washington, D.C. is going to be lucky to have you and Block.One here. And then Brendan was talking about the use of blockchain and government using blockchain. And then also things of Dan Larimer speaking about recently, about talking about the benefits of private and public chains, EOSIO chains. So he's really kind of almost setting the foundation and the expectations of the community that, hey, don't think that everything needs to be this decentralized utopia where everything is just this. There's all different levels and degrees and use cases and purposes that can all be interconnected through IBC, that makes the overall system, the overall network, decentralized. But if you look at individual pieces of the network, then maybe those individual pieces aren't as decentralized as other pieces, but all network together through IBC, then it becomes this decentralized, I guess, utopia in its own. What are your thoughts on that?
Whenever we were talking about more of these government connections, I was getting a lot of like comments and feedback of like working against the government, or why let the government take over EOS. But I'm pretty sure that if the government's going to use this, they're going to be using their own versions of EOSIO. I don't think they're planning to do a whole lot of this on the mainnet. I think if there's a mainnet component to the government and the intelligence stuff, they might be posting a hash of the block headers to the mainnet. And that's kind of a piece of IBC that I could see happening, is we're going to have thousands of different blockchains, some public, some private. But if they're all just posting a hash of their block headers to the mainnet, then that kind of verifies everything on a public ledger, that you can go backwards in their history and know that it hasn't been modified. Because if they modify one single character in an entire block, it's going to change the hash of every block header moving forward. So it kind of allows them to kind of give specific access to who they want to have access, or give specific permissions to who they want to have access to a private blockchain, while still being verifiable on a public blockchain just by comparing the block headers. I think that's one of the ways we'll see IBC here. Exactly.
I mean, we can't expect banks and governments who rule the ecosystem, that rule the world, to just roll over and just say, "Oh, you guys won. We're done. Thanks for playing." They're gonna adapt, and they're going to go for it in their own way. But if it is the beauty of it is, if it's through EOSIO network, then you can choose the island that suits your needs. If you feel comfortable with the Telos or a Boss or a Meet One or a Warbly, or you can be decentralized yourself and be on multiple islands, so to speak. So yeah, I think that this is only exciting. It's of course it's going to happen. Governments and banks are going to utilize this technology. So moving on here for a second. So in the past, Trump held a tech summit. You may remember this, where Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook were there, and Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, Larry Page from Google, Eric Schmidt, as well as Elon Musk. They were all invited to meet with Trump at a tech summit roundtable, which was also Peter Thiel was there. And Trump opened the session by paying homage to Peter Thiel. Okay, so he didn't pay homage to Bezos or Musk or Page. He opened the session by paying homage to Peter Thiel. So probably the most underrated, the name that most people in America don't know. We know it because we're in crypto and we follow this stuff, but most people don't know who Peter Thiel is. Okay, so Trump opened the session of paying homage to Peter Thiel, who sat at his left in a gray pinstripe suit. You remember that image I showed you earlier where Trump was holding him with both hands? It's a very sincere-looking moment.
Let's not forget this other name on here, Eric Schmidt.
Right.
So I haven't been talking about Eric Schmidt because I am not sure of the connections that are still there. So one of the very first EOSVC announcements was for a company called Tomorrow BC, which is Tomorrow Blockchain. And it was a subsidiary of Tomorrow VC, which is actually Eric Schmidt's venture capital fund. But the reason I haven't talked about it in a while is because all of the history of that got wiped clean off of Block.One's site. So if you go on the EOSVC section of the Block.One website, you won't see a mention of Tomorrow BC. And I don't know if that just means they dissolved their partnership or if they kind of threw it back under the rug for a future announcement. So I'm not sure of which one it is, but there is an Eric Schmidt tie-in to Block.One via a VC fund that is managed by someone else, but it's Eric Schmidt's VC fund.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so going on here, talking about Peter Thiel, a tech investing savant, data mining wizard, and enthusiastic Trump supporter. Thiel, thin, pale, and invariable serious, was credited with coaxing some of the heavyweights, several of whom had publicly endorsed Hillary Clinton, to make an appearance. I want to start by thanking Peter, Trump said, because he saw something very early, maybe before we saw it. And of course, he's known for that in a different way. He's ahead of the curve. Then he warmly grabbed Peter Thiel's hand with two of his own, adding, "I want to thank you. You're a very special guy." So, this is very telling. So Peter Thiel holds a lot of respect and influence in Washington and in the tech world and in the investing world. So, Thiel can get the ear of anybody he wants. So assuming that he talks about his investments and assuming that when he's talking about cryptocurrency, that his investment in Block.One, EOSIO, should probably come up from time to time, considering that it's the most used blockchain in the world. And it does something that no other blockchain can do, which is real-world account names on nearly instant and free transactions. Got it? So, as Trump said, he's ahead of the curve. He saw Block.One. He saw the new cutting-edge technology of EOSIO. So again, these are all assumptions, but he's a smart guy. He smelled Block.One before any other big investor, a lot or most big investors, at least to his heavyweightness. So moving on. So Peter Thiel's Founders Funds looks to bring big investors into cryptocurrencies. So interesting. Peter Thiel invested in a company. Have you heard of? I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I say it's Tagoni. It's a Tagoni.
I'm terrible at pronouncing words that I'm used to reading. Most of my content, input, is all from reading, which is funny because the content I create is visual and talking, but I always mess up names and pronunciation. So it's okay. However you said it's the acceptable way.
Well, anyway, so we have one Goldman Sachs alumni. That was Steve Bannon and Thiel connection. Okay, Thiel Block.One connection, and now we've got this Tagoni connection. The Wall Street Journal reports that the legendary Silicon investor capital firm has made an early-stage investment in Tagoni, a startup that aims to serve as a broker-dealer for family offices, wealthy individuals, and other institutional investors. The startup, whose operations remain in such an early phase that not even its name is set in stone, was co-founded by Greg Tusar, a former Goldman Sachs executive who ran the firm's electronic trading division. So this is basically an exchange OTC desk for rich investors. And this is invested by Peter Thiel. Okay, and they've another Goldman Sachs tie-in here with Peter Thiel. This is their homepage. One account, instant global access. Tagami combines institutional grade services with superior execution technology for digital assets and cryptocurrencies. Our products will provide operational ease and reduce trading costs so you keep more of your returns. Now, this is geared for the 1%, okay, institutions and the wealthy of the crypto world. So Greg Tusar, he's the guy behind it, former Goldman electronic trading head, sees perils in crypto. So Greg Tusar, the former global head of electronic trading at Goldman Sachs Group. And again, we're tying in Goldman Sachs because they're the partner with Apple for the Apple Card. Cited about digital assets despite the horrific year of cryptocurrencies. Is talking about the bear market we've seen. So this is one sharp cookie here. This is from I think the wiki page. Greg Tusar is the founder of Tagami Systems, served as global execution services at platform at KCG Holdings Inc., formerly GetCo. So this is. Have you ever heard of KCG Holdings?
I have not. No.
Okay, they're pretty huge, but it was an American global financial services firm engaging in market making, high frequency trading, electronic execution, and institutional sales and trading. So, this Greg Tusar, again, he was a big tech guy at Goldman Sachs. And so I'm just trying to, make the connections here of who Peter Thiel is putting together in his rosters of making this ecosystem work. So he invested in Tagami with that has a very sharp team that has a track record of succeeding. Now we're moving on to Bannon and Pierce. So are you aware of the Bannon and Pierce connection?
Oh yeah, very, and I knew about this for a long time. It just wasn't relevant until all of the Washington D.C. news came out. Then it's like, wait a minute, he's very, very closely connected to this guy who, like Thiel, has had the president's ear for a very long time. So Brock Pierce started a company called IGE a long time ago, and basically he was a market maker for World of Warcraft Gold. And Steve Bannon was actually on Brock Pierce's payroll as an employee. So he left Goldman Sachs to work at this company, IGE, which Brock Pierce founded. And Brendan Bloomer was also an employee at IGE around that same time. Brock Pierce left IGE and stepped down as CEO and went on to do other things. And then Steve Bannon stepped up as the next CEO to replace Brock Pierce. Exactly.
And, Brock Pierce is just another, rock star. I mean, what he has done, not only in this space, but before this space, is legendary. So, here's another guy that has tremendous influence, not only just in the world of crypto, but in the world of business. He's just a bright guy. So, these are just, wiki about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon worked at Goldman Sachs as an investment banker and left as vice president. So he was one of the vice presidents at Goldman Sachs when he left. So I'm sure he's in the Goldman Sachs, big boy club. He's got he's got somebody's ear over there. And Brock Pierce has the ear of Steve Bannon. And I'm sure they've talked EOSIO, again, speculation, but come on, dots and dots. We've got so many Goldman Sachs, correlations here. It's not even funny. But
Brock's definitely the glue that brings this all together. I mean, he's just the connector of people. So there was a really popular article about Brock Pierce revitalizing Puerto Rico this summer in the Rolling Stone. And in the article, they actually tell a story about how Derek Rundell, he's actually the venture capital, he's the fund manager for that Tomorrow BC, which was announced as an EOS VC fund back in January 2018. Brock Pierce was actually the one that made that connection to Eric Schmidt's VC fund. And they tell the story in that article about how Derek Rundell met with Brock Pierce in Puerto Rico, and that's how they came to an agreement for Tomorrow BC, which was originally announced as a $50 million collaboration between Block.One and Tomorrow BC, which Tomorrow BC is a subsidiary VC fund of Eric Schmidt's. So if Eric Schmidt is involved in any way with Block.One or EOSIO, we could probably credit Brock Pierce for that as well.
Okay, now we can't forget about Michael Novogratz, because again, ex-head fund manager, formerly of the investment firm Fortress Investment Group. He was ranked a billionaire in Forbes 2007, 2008 prior to joining Fortress. He was a partner at Goldman Sachs, where he spent much time abroad, including leadership roles in Asia and Latin America. Now, he's a huge EOS advocate. So I imagine, drinks on a Friday night, some of his Goldman Sachs, vice presidents, he's talking up EOSIO. Again, speculation, but, Michael's a sharp cookie, so I can't imagine that Goldman Sachs doesn't understand the power of EOSIO by now, by one of these Goldman Sachs ex-VPs. What are your thoughts on that?
So Mike Novogratz, he's obviously a big Bitcoin proponent, as well as a big EOSIO proponent. He has by far the largest EOS VC fund with Galaxy Digital than any of the other funds. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's $325 million of Block.One's capital that they raised to basically distribute to venture fund, like seed capital and VC capital, Series A capital, to all these projects. So there's that tie in there, but he also has big tie-ins to Ethereum also. So did you know that his college roommate, one of his close friends, was Joe Lubin?
No, I didn't.
So he's as much as I want to believe that Mike Novogratz is just a huge EOSIO bull, I also want to be realistic that he's a big crypto bull in general.
Oh yeah, most certainly. Yeah.
So regardless of these connections, I'm sorry, I'm kind of ruining this rabbit hole here, but this is all big crypto news. Like I don't think there's any doubt that blockchain and crypto are going to make huge strides in the next year. I just hope EOSIO has something to do with it, but I'm happy regardless of if it's just Bitcoin itself or as much as I want to hate to say it, Ethereum, but it did kind of piss me off a little bit that when the Engine wallet got integrated into the Galaxy S10, it didn't even include Bitcoin. So that tells me that the S10 is going to be incorporating more cryptocurrencies very soon, if it doesn't even have Bitcoin yet. So I'm hoping EOSIO is part of that too. That's completely out of left field. Mm-hmm. But I keep playing devil's advocate here. I want to believe, Mike. I want to believe. Yeah. But I this is exciting news to me just because I'm in favor of all decentralized currencies, anything not fiat, paper money backed. I'm a big proponent to advancing that whole initiative forward. I don't care if it's EOSIO or Bitcoin or even Ethereum, as long as the current guard is getting made like the dinosaurs, then that's a huge win for everybody. It's a competition.
Oh, I agree.
Obviously, I'm cheering for EOSIO. I just want to put that out there.
Well, and back to Mike Novogratz. I mean, as you and I know, I've been all over this ecosystem. I owned a tremendous amount of Ethereum and a tremendous amount of Ethereum projects over the years. And as soon as I actually started using EOS and the EOSIO ecosystem and the how easy it was, account names that you can remember, not having to worry about gas, on and on, the ease of use of it, the electrified, EOS community, the exponential innovation. I can't believe that Michael Novogratz doesn't feel the same euphoria that we do when we look at this this overall EOSIO ecosystem. So I am betting that he is, yes, he is a big Ethereum guy, big Bitcoin guy, but I have a feeling that EOS is the horse he rides. Again, speculation, but
did you get a chance to watch his interview or listen to his interview, I should say, on Pomp?
No, I didn't. I started to, and then the kids needed something, and I just forgot about it. But tell me.
Basically, Pomp asked him like what he's most excited for, and as far as blockchain in 2019, and he kind of tiptoed around it, and he held his cards close to his chest. If he I think he's bullish on multiple aspects because I believe he has some sort of equity stake in Coinbase also. So he mentioned Coinbase, and then he mentioned something Ethereum related, but then he said something about EOSIO. And then you could tell he lit up at that point. He said that was around the first time that the June news was public. Right. And he perked up and was like, I can't say anything about it, but it's going to be like big. I don't remember the exact words.
Yeah, I remember I saw that part of the interview, and he actually said, I think he said Block.One was one of the most powerful companies to keep your eye on. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but of course he's being interviewed by Pomp, so who's a Bitcoin, he's the Bitcoin guy. So you don't really know what Pomp thinks of EOS. So it's not the first thing that's going to come out of your mouth when you're talking to a Bitcoin guy, but it was within the first few mentions. It was Block.One and EOS. So yeah, I do remember that part of the interview. So
as a Bitcoin bull, all these Goldman Sachs guys and Mike Novogratz in particular, let's not forget that Brendan Bloomer and Dan Larimer themselves have been talking about scaling Bitcoin via EOS and EOSIO. So you could be a big Bitcoin bull, but you're probably not a bull on $25 per transaction at today's price. That only goes up as the Bitcoin price goes up. So all of these institutions might have something to do with this technology, like however they're planning to basically, if EOSIO could become a better version of the Lightning Network and be adopted by these institutions, like that's a huge win too. So let's just not forget that scaling Bitcoin on EOSIO is not something that would be a surprise to anyone because it's all Brendan Bloomer has been tweeting about over the last month.
Exactly. Yeah. And the more I dive into the Lightning Network, the more confusing and messy it just seems in comparison to probably the ease of use and the grace, and probably more decentralized and easy to use than the Lightning Network. But we'll see those details unfold. But going back to the Goldman Sachs connections, Goldman Sachs and Mike Novogratz invest in cryptocurrency startup BitGo. So now we're going in the BitGo rabbit hole. Goldman Sachs and Novogratz Galaxy Digital Ventures contributed $15 million. The strategic investment from Goldman Sachs and Galaxy Digital Ventures validates both our market opportunity and unique position. No one is better positioned than BitGo to serve institutional investors who want to trade cryptocurrencies and digital assets. That's why we're focused on figuring out what it takes to secure $1 trillion. So you've probably, this is an old article from October 2018. But have you heard about that $1 trillion wallet?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Wallet?
So, yeah, trillion. So they're dubbing the BitGo wallet the first $1 trillion wallet. So meaning there's going to be so much value being exchanged and held in the BitGo ecosystem that they're calling it the $1 trillion wallet. It's not now, but that's what they hope it to become. So now this gets into what you had me dive a little deeper into, which is the equilibrium USDT. And do you want to talk on this for a second?
So the best way to describe the project without getting too detailed in the nuances between the two is to compare it to what MakerDAO does on Ethereum. So it's a collateral-backed stablecoin or an asset-backed stablecoin. What it allows you to do is you basically lock up your digital assets, and then you're allowed to basically take out a loan against your assets in a stable coin. So on MakerDAO, you lock up your Ethereum and you get DAI in return. And those DAI are pegged to $1 each. And with this, with Equilibrium, it would allow you to lock up EOS into a contract. And then in return, you would get EOSD dollar tethers, which are equivalent to $1. So it's basically almost like a lending system that allows you to take out loans against your digital assets. And today it's just EOS, and on MakerDAO it's just Ethereum. But they both have plans to allow other liquid assets and eventually STOs and eventually like tokenized real estate and all that fun stuff. You'll basically be able to use them as collateral to create stable dollars in the future. Yeah,
and this is live now.
It is. So I'm still not ready to tell everyone to go all in and put all their EOS in here, but it's worth trying out with a small amount of EOS while the project's still young. They have a super legitimate team.
Oh yeah.
But the nut token. So the nut token is their governance token. So you got to hold your nuts. They still haven't rolled out their press release or publicity or whatever documentation on their distribution for the nut token. So until they do that, I'm not going to recommend everyone to just throw your EOS into this. But the team, no doubt about it, and I think that's where you're going, the team, no doubt about it, is completely legit. One of the most legitimate teams out of any of this. There aren't really no stable coins on EOS. There's Carbon USD, but it's completely different. This team's got that Goldman Sachs pedigree. And it doesn't say it on this page, but Alex is the co-founder of Changelly, which is basically a crypto-to-crypto shapeshift-like exchange that has existed for years.
Yeah, and I've used Changelly many times. I know Alex; he's a really good guy. So seeing him as the CEO of this project really, gave me excitement. I was like, wow. Yeah. So and then here's another one of our Goldman Sachs kind of links. Dave Askey, system architect, former executive director at Goldman Sachs. And then to his left, Josh Goodbody, former VP at JP Morgan Asset Management. So, and then ex-legal counselor at State Street, which is huge. So, this is just a dynamic, successful team. I mean, these guys are the real deal. So moving on here. So Goldman Sachs owns Circle, right? And we've talked about this in the past. It's not really being talked about lately, but Goldman Sachs-backed startup launched a stablecoin cryptocurrency. On September 26th, Circle announced to release its new stablecoin USD coin USDC, which will begin trading on Circle's Poloniex exchange immediately. The new USDC stablecoin will be fully collateralized by USD at a 1-to-1 ratio. So, Circle, the company, up until December 2016, Circle Pay also operated a Bitcoin wallet service to buy and sell Bitcoins. It has since ceased to provide such service, claiming the company is now more than ever not a consumer Bitcoin exchange and will continue to focus resources on global social payments and future next generation blockchain technology. The company has received over $135 million in venture capital from 4 rounds of investments from 2013 to 2016, including $50 million led by Goldman Sachs. So, Circle Trade, principal over-the-counter desk. Since 2014, we've been a leading liquidity provider and market maker for crypto assets. In 2018, we handled over $24 billion in notional volume. So I didn't realize that they've been around that long and that they did that much volume. What are your thoughts on that?
This is the first I'm seeing that number. That's a pretty big number. So I guess my questions on here is, or it's not really a question. So we've seen the research that came out over the last month about how most exchange volume is fake. I don't think you could fake OTC volume though, can you? I mean, it's peer-to-peer essentially with a middleman as the desk in between.
Yeah, I don't know how regulated it is, but
I don't think they're wash trading on an OTC desk is basically what I'm saying.
But, yeah,
no volume.
But knowing Goldman Sachs owns Circle, and Goldman Sachs is also partnered with Apple Card, I'm sure Goldman Sachs is coaching or at least offering some sort of technical advice or insights from their dealings in the crypto sphere to offer them a doorway into the future. So again, speculation, but
Goldman Sachs has been like very quiet and hush hush and almost secretive about their plans with crypto also.
Right.
So that usually tells you that there's more to it if they're not talking about it, because if there really was nothing to it, they would just say, hey, there's nothing to it. But the fact that they're really, very hush hush and working quietly tells me that there's something in the works.
Oh yeah. So Circle Pay, send money between currencies, countries, and friends. I put Goldman Sachs on there. But, paying friends is simple and fast. Crossed our emoji heart. The app is even organized by conversations. So you can add a fresh cat pic, blah, blah. So it's kind of like integrating multimedia or social media and payments. But again, it's just, Goldman Sachs, Apple Card. I'm sure they're exchanging ideas. I would love to be a fly on the wall. Circle again, their USD coin, USDC, is a US dollar-backed stablecoin that lets you move across dollar and crypto rails instantly. It's the power of the dollar at the speed of crypto. The coin's USD reserves are documented by Grant Thornton each month. So, thinking about Apple Card, if they're using blockchain and they're being partnered with Goldman Sachs, don't you think that would be a great avenue for Goldman Sachs to say, hey, we've got USDC with tons of liquidity, and it's already working. Now I do know that USDC is currently on Ethereum, but there's no reason why that can't be ported over to a more robust system, or even through IBC somehow. But I would think that Goldman Sachs has a big stake in getting their USDC coin used and adopted. So for me, it's kind of like they're at the table talking. I'm sure their USDC is going to come up in conversation somehow. What do you think?
Well, so just think if USDC is basically a dollar, it's a tokenized dollar. So go back to how the Coinbase debit card works, and it's basically an atomic swap at the register. So if they have an exchange in place, they have Circle and Poloniex with a very liquid USDC. So at the cash register, if this Apple Pay works the same way I described the Coinbase card, they have all of the pieces there. I buy a $10 item at the gas station. I swipe my card. On the back end, you have this Circle exchange and Poloniex. All that's happening is like you would designate in this Apple wallet like which cryptocurrencies you'd want to sell first and in what order. On the back end, all it's doing is it'd be like an EOS to USDC swap, and then those USDCs would go into like the account, the payments account. If the retailer wants actual dollars, then it's an easy swap from USDC to dollars. But if it's held in dollars, like an I don't want to say escrow, but if it's held somewhere in USDC, you don't have to worry about the volatility. So in the time for remittance, for converting those USDCs into actual dollars for whoever accepted that payment, it's not too far off. All of the tools, all of the pieces are in place for this to work without a problem.
Right.
I'm excited to see who does this first, because when you look into Backed, which is the other big exchange, we're waiting on their big ETF right now so that they could create their institutional exchange. I envision them having a similar like back-end infrastructure that does a very similar thing. So right. I'm excited to learn how closely tied Goldman Sachs and Circle are to Apple and Apple Pay.
How much do you have conversations with the big global banks in terms of integrating blockchain into the already established international financial system?
Well, we're still in the stage of doing a lot of awareness with these financial institutions. As I mentioned, our new group president was the former CFO of Commonwealth Bank. So we do have a lot of expertise in the organization that's taking a look at kind of the technology that we've been building. And how it can, relay over into their core banking software. So some of those discussions are happening, but a lot of the banks are still in the early stages of understanding how they can maximize this technology and to move them to the next generation.
I didn't know about this connection. So I'm super excited about all of this because I see this as the future is going to be at the register. As far as the retailers are concerned, they're just getting dollars or euros or pesos, whatever their local currency is. But in the background, there's all of these atomic swaps going on so that it's instantaneous and you don't even have to think about it because it's all, as long as you have very liquid currencies, this could all happen in the background without you even knowing about it. What's this slide? I see the next slide is Apple involved with EOS. Overheard Tim Cook talking about block producers.
Yeah, so this is just pure speculation, Reddit speculation, but it kind of ties into Kent at the beginning video, EOS San Diego. And I figured since we started with speculation, we'd kind of end with massive speculation. Is Apple involved with EOS at all? Overheard Tim Cook talking about BPs. For the last 6 months, I've been running into Tim Cook at my local Equinox in Palo Alto. I've never said a word to him, but I recently overheard him speaking with another guy about BPs. My ears obviously perked up, but I couldn't make out much of the conversation. We were in the steam room. Only that Tim wanted to become a BP or something along these lines. I couldn't recognize the other guy, but he was Asian, possibly already a block producer in Asia. I know a large proportion of our current BPs are in Asia at the moment. If Apple are indeed looking to get into this space, is that good or bad for EOS? They obviously have the infrastructure to be a top block producer, but if MS, Amazon, Google, etc., all became block producers, wouldn't that go against the entire idea of EOS, especially since these are all US-based companies? I'm trying to see the big picture, and it makes sense that in the future these companies will jump in, but also it worries me. Well, my response to him is that would be great because they would all be holding themselves accountable, and it's all immutable, it's transparent, or at least segments of it would be. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that would be a beautiful thing. I think that would basically say that we made it.
All right.
It might suck for some of the smaller independent block producers that would get bumped down a bunch of notches, but at the end of the day, to have these established monster companies running nodes, running block producers, they would hold each other accountable. Like you said, right now they basically just run everything in their monopoly, and they could make whatever decisions they want. Whereas if they're all working together on whether it's EOS or another blockchain or an EOSIO fork, whatever it is, then they need that. Speaking of the EOS mainnet, they can't make any changes without a 15 out of 21 multi-sig out of the active block producer. So that check on their power makes all the difference in the world. We need to make iterative improvements to where we want to go. And I don't think anyone could say that having that check on their power is not better than how things are today.
Exactly.
So I think that'd be amazing. That would basically mean we've hit mainstream adoption. I hope that this stuff were to happen, but I don't see it in the super short term. But 5 years from now, that would mean if Google, Amazon, or Microsoft, if any one or two of them is running a block producing node on EOSIO, I don't care what chain it is, that means we made it.
Right.
So that'd be a beautiful thing.
Because if one of those big guys did it, then everybody would follow in fashion.
I think we're going to see a day, and it's not going to be all that far off, where there's going to probably be a one-click deployment on Amazon Web Services to deploy a private blockchain the same way you can click it to deploy a SQL database.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see happening, and it's not too far off, really.
So kind of rounding off the presentation here, to create a different kind of card, we worked with a different kind of partner, Goldman Sachs /Circle /USDC. I'm throwing that in there. But Goldman Sachs, EOS.
The Goldman Sachs connection's as clear as day. So really, it's just connecting Block.One to all. I think this is huge for crypto. I don't have any doubt about it. But I think I need a little bit more evidence to tie EOSIO into all of this, but bullish for crypto as a whole.
Well, regardless if this whole Apple Card thing is legit or not, tied in with EOS, what is happening in the EOSIO ecosystem, from liquid dApps to Chintai checks to the side chains, sister chains. What's happening in this ecosystem is like nothing I've ever seen in my life, or in any other microcosm in the crypto space. It's really magical. And and I watched the Frank Chester's talk, Brock Pierce, on the Chestahedron, and that really sparked a lot of interesting ideas in my mind. And thinking of the best way to describe it is the magic in this ecosystem. The exponential innovation is just unreal. So whether or not Apple Card is a thing, this train's not slowing down.
It's just crazy to look back at like that big run we had in 2017, whenever it was big news if like an ICO partnered with another ICO and neither of them like were even established. And now we're basically talking about EOSIO and Block.One maybe doing stuff with the US government, which is like the biggest company in the world. And then Goldman Sachs, which is like one of the biggest financial players in the world, that they manage so much money and just tokenizing assets. It's like the stuff in 2019 is so much bigger and so much more real than in 2017, but yet the market cap doesn't show it. But the market cap is not a good indication of innovation, because we are so like far ahead right now. It's like all of these false promises of 2017 are starting to come to fruition now, 2 years later. But
every day,
right?
Every day something big. It's hard to keep up with everything. I mean, I listen to you and Rob talk, and I'm thinking, God, I wish I had half their brains, man. They're so intelligent. And I love your guys' show. I mean, you offer so much value to this ecosystem. You guys inspire me greatly. So, I know this is going on long. So maybe we should start to wrap this up. But, thank you for having me on again. It's a huge honor, Zack, to speak with you about all this. Hope to do it many times again in the future.
Yes, sir. I can't wait, man. I appreciate these talks. I'll talk EOS all day, every day. And the audience seems to like it. So let's just keep going. How do we want to sign off here, though? I'm not going to do the salute this time.
Bam! 3, 2, 1. Go EOS!
Hopefully we got it. If we didn't, people could just laugh at us. That's okay this time.
Bam!